You can always tell when peace is about to end. It doesn't knock, it hums. That morning, the hum came from an HOA patrol SUV sliding down our street, so slow it looked guilty for moving at all. The sound wasn't loud, just steady, like a warning wrapped in politeness. Saturday had promised quiet, the kind where coffee smells like calm and grass breathes sunlight. My grandfather sat on the back step, hat tilted, polishing an old metal toolbox that had seen more years than I'd been alive. His hands moved like time itself, patient, deliberate. He loved fixing things that didn't ask to be fixed, and he used to tell me, "A house isn't just shelter. It's a promise you keep every day." He never said the rest out loud, that some promises need defending. Our neighborhood looked like perfection designed by a ruler and a spreadsheet. Lawns trimmed to identical heights, driveways so clean they reflected the clouds. It was the kind of place where control passed for character. And if control had a queen, her name was Linda Calloway, president of the HOA, self-appointed guardian of community harmony. You could hear her heels before you saw her. Click, click, click. Punctuation for rules no one remembered agreeing to. Behind her came the clipboard twins, two retired men who treated measuring grass like a calling. One of them always carried a tape measure, the other righteous indignation. Their SUV parked flush against our mailbox, logo shining like a sheriff's badge. Grandpa didn't even look up. He was busy tightening a hinge on the back gate. "Every parade," he murmured, "eventually runs out of music." I stood at the door, lemonade in hand, watching the patrol advance. Linda crossed our lawn as if it owed her rent. The twins followed, snapping their tape open before she even spoke. "This fence," she declared, voice sharp as paperwork, "is 2 inches into the association's harmony buffer." Grandpa blinked. "Harmony buffer?" "Yes," she said, "the regulated space between private property and visual continuity." He wiped his hands on his jeans. "Ah," he said, nodding like he'd learned something profound. "So the space between my fence and thin A." Linda's lips tightened. "Regulations are clear. 2 inches is 2 inches. Corrective action required immediately." Grandpa smiled faintly. He said, "I've shaved closer than that." I nearly spit my drink. Linda didn't. She stormed off, leaving the clipboard twins to document the apocalypse of 2 inches. That night, Grandpa was humming. That was always a sign. When he hummed, something was being built, or avenged. The garage filled with the smell of solder and quiet determination. He wasn't crafting revenge. He was designing a reminder. By sunrise, neat yellow signs lined the fence. Private property. Do not touch. Inside each post ran a thin wire, harmless, low voltage, just enough to teach boundaries. 3 days later, the HOA parade returned. Linda in front, twins behind, tape measure ready. Grandpa sat on the porch, iced tea in hand. "Morning, folks," he called. "You can do your measuring from the sidewalk." One twin smirked. "We're authorized to inspect." "Authorized by who?" "The association." Grandpa nodded. "Then the association can pay for trespassing." The man stretched his tape a little too far. It brushed the wire. There was a soft pop, a flash of blue, like lightning caught mid-wink. The twin yelped, stumbling backward, clutching his hand. The other dropped his clipboard. The rent-a-guard jumped, reaching for his radio like time could be stopped if you clicked fast enough. Across the street, curtains lifted. Mrs. Henson froze mid-watering, creating a small lake around her roses. Kids coasted on bikes, grinning. Phones came out. Someone shouted, "Told you not to touch it." Linda marched forward like a general entering a mutiny. "This is a public safety violation," she barked. "You can't electrify a residential fence." Grandpa didn't move. He took a sip of tea. The sign's right there. Big letters. "That's not authorization. That's defiance." He smiled. "All literacy." The laughter that rippled across the block was quiet but undeniable. Linda's face went red enough to power a bulb. She threatened citations, lawsuits, city inspections. Grandpa only said, "Do what you need, but don't do it here." By evening, the story was everywhere. Kids mimicked the spark. The twins claimed minor shock trauma. Videos of the electric fence showdown spread through neighborhood chats faster than gossip in a beauty salon. Next morning, Linda fired off an email titled Urgent Safety Concern. She described Grandpa as a rogue electrician operating a live perimeter capable of severe injury. She even attached blurry photos of the blue flash, like evidence from a crime scene. By noon, everyone had a theory. Some said he'd wired it to the house grid. Others swore he'd used old car batteries. One rumor claimed military technology. Grandpa just whistled and watered his tomatoes. At dinner, Mom worried. Dad said the HOA had no real power beyond shared areas. Grandpa just smiled that slow, steady smile. "Faye," he said, "grows faster than grass, but grass can be cut." The next evening, an emergency HOA meeting filled the clubhouse with fluorescent light and tension. Folding chairs, coffee breath, righteous energy. Linda stood at the front, binder in hand, face rehearsed for outrage. She launched into her speech, public danger, reckless endangerment, threat to children and pets. Her voice rose with every page flip. People nodded nervously, until a voice from the back asked, "Didn't your patrol walk onto his property?" Linda froze. We were ensuring compliance. Compliance with what? The air, someone murmured. Then the door opened. Grandpa walked in, calm as sunrise, hat low, thermos in hand. He leaned against the wall, waiting. When she called for public discussion, he stepped forward. "I've just one question," he said. "When did we decide a man's yard belongs to a committee instead of his family?" Silence, the kind that makes people shift in their seats. He pulled a folded paper from his pocket. "State code," he said. "Low-voltage fencing is legal if marked and safe. Mine runs less power than a bug zapper. No one's been harmed, unless pride counts." The laughter this time was louder. Linda's face drained of color. She sputtered about harmony and image, but the tide had shifted. People whispered that maybe Grandpa wasn't the villain after all. She left early that night, hands trembling on the wheel. Fury dressed as dignity. Linda wasn't done. Pride rarely retreats after one bad day. It reloads. At sunrise, a city sedan eased to our curb. Out stepped a man in a pale shirt with an official clipboard, the kind of authority that smells like copy paper and neutral policies. Linda shadowed him like a tour guide of outrage. Grandpa met them at the gate, hat tipped, voice even. "Morning. Want to see it up close." The inspector checked the signs first, tracing the warning text with his eyes. He followed the thin wire along the inside of the post, pausing at a small control box tucked beneath the latch. "Mind if I test?" he asked. "Please do," Grandpa said, handing him a little meter. "Low pulse. Safer than a bug zapper. Cuts out when the gate opens." The man clipped the leads, glanced at the readout, and scribbled notes. He tugged the latch to watch a tiny red flag pop up on the housing. "Fail-safe engaged," he murmured, almost impressed. He tested again. The meter barely twitched. Linda folded her arms. "So you're doing nothing?" "I enforce code," the inspector replied. "Not opinions." He shut his notebook with the soft authority of a closing book. Marked, low voltage, auto cutoff, compliant. She sputtered, but the city car rolled away anyway, taking her certainty with it. If the day had a soundtrack, you could hear the neighborhood exhale. You'd think that would settle the matter. But humiliation ferments into schemes. That night, the street fell into that calm suburban quiet. Porch lights, distant TV glow, sprinklers hissing like snakes. Near midnight, a figure moved along the hedges. Big shoulders, tentative steps, a beam of light stitched across the grass. I recognized him from odd job gossip. Rick, handy with tools, not so much with judgment. He reached the fence and crouched, brandishing cutters. The instant metal kissed the wire, a tiny blue snap bit back. He yelped, toppled into the shrubs, dropped the tool, and cursed at the moon. Our porch light blinked on. Grandpa stepped out like the night belonged to him. "Evening," he said, mild as milk. "Lose something." Rick scrambled to his feet, guilt all over his face. Lady said it was dangerous. Asked me to. He swallowed the rest, grabbed his flashlight, and sprinted into darkness. By morning, The grapevine was fully watered. Some said Grandpa had motion sensors. Others imagined night vision goggles. Someone left a pie on our steps with a note. Electric Sheriff. Thank you. Grandpa laughed and shared slices with a mail carrier. Linda, cornered by reality, switched to fiction. She told anyone who'd listen that Grandpa had assaulted contractor. Trouble was, Rick didn't want to be Exhibit A. Without his testimony, her claim fell apart like a cardboard badge in the rain. Still, she kept moving. Pride is a shark that must swim or sink. She recruited her loyalists, the Clipboard twins and Mason, an ex-cop with a holster full of acronyms and a jaw set to lecture. Together they designed theater with a legal accent. Mason called it Operation Compliance. The idea, show up with police for a welfare check, trigger a dramatic shock, capture Grandpa's calm face on camera, and paint it as malice. The day came warm and peach-colored. A cruiser idled by the curb, officers as bored as cats in sunlight. Linda staged herself on the sidewalk, hand to chest, voice tuned for emergency. The twins clutched props, a rake and a drywall square, as if paperwork grew in gardens. Grandpa stepped out with a dog, set a paper bag of treats on the step, and walked to the gate. He flipped the safety latch. A small red flag popped up like a polite semaphore. System safe, he told the sergeant. Gate open. Circuit off. Test it anyway, Linda hissed. One twin nudged the wire with the rake. Nothing. No spark. No song. Just air. Linda's jaw tightened. Her eyes cut to the other twin, who seemed suddenly fascinated with his pocket. I saw his thumb press something concealed. A split second later, crack. A stage jolt. A flash from nowhere. He yelped and stumbled back, clutching his hand like theater had become a little too real. Gasps. Phones up. Linda threw her arms wide. Assault by device. You saw it. The sergeant didn't move. He looked at the red safety flag still raised. He looked at Grandpa's hands, empty, then at the twins' palm, tinged with embarrassment more than anything else. Grandpa knelt by the latch, opened the control box, and lifted a small monitor from the tool chest beneath. This log's last activation, he said. Green for safe mode. The screen glowed steady green. Circuit's been off 10 minutes. Overhead, a drone word. The teenager across the street, part Spielberg, part meddler, had captured everything. The safe latch, the non-event, and the palm-sized stun gadget falling from the twins' pocket, duct tape hiding the branding like a bandit mask. The whisper started. The sergeant sighed. So, he said slowly, you shocked yourself to frame a fence that's off. No one answered. Linda's face cycled through colors and landed on defiant. The sergeant tipped his cap to Grandpa. Have a good day, so. He turned to Linda. False reports are a problem. Manufactured ones are worse. The cruiser slid away, leaving a silence that tasted like justice. If the HOA drama were a TV season, that would have been the finale. But Linda wanted a sequel with a courtroom set. She filed suit, big binder, bigger words. The courthouse smelled like old paper and permanent coffee. She arrived first, navy suit sharp enough to cut arguments, supporters stacked behind her like moral furniture. The clipboard twins hovered near the aisle, bandages conspicuously neat. Grandpa came later, clean shirt, same straw hat, the dignity of a man who fixes what he can and leaves the rest of truth. Mom, Dad, and I trailed him. He looked like he was clocking in, not squaring up. The judge settled in, a patient face, a pen that made people careful. Linda opened like a showrunner, dramatic adjectives, endangering residents, electrified perimeter, menace to children, pets, and postal workers. She waved photos of the blue spark like evidence of a storm. When the judge asked about injuries, a twin lifted an unmarked hand, which didn't help her weather report. Grandpa's turn felt like stepping into clean air. He unfolded a sheet, state code, highlighted, tidy. Low pulse. Private use, he explained. Clear signage. Auto cut when gate opens. Less juice than the bug zapper. No complaints until folks decided my fence was a canvas for their imaginations. He glanced at the bench. If they hadn't trespassed, they couldn't have touched it. If they hadn't touched it, they wouldn't have startled. Pride's a lousy electrician. A chuckle rolled through the room. Linda objected to the tone. The judge overruled without looking tired. She tried to recover with Mason, who arrived full of acronyms and posture. The judge interrupted after 3 letters. "Sir, you're here as a neighbor, not an expert." Then came the drone footage. The room leaned forward, the stun device blinking on the ground, the red safety flag up, the timeline clear as math. Even the stenographer paused, eyes wide, fingers hovering. The judge leaned back, exhaled, and addressed Linda. "This shows your team staging an incident. Do you deny it?" Her silence was eloquent. The decision clicked into place like a latch. Fence, legal. Trespass, proven. HOA authority, limited to common spaces. Damages, awarded. Case, closed. Applause spilled into the hallway like relief with shoes on. On the courthouse steps, neighbors clapped Grandpa's shoulder and grinned at a hat. He tipped it and said, "Truth doesn't need shouting, just standing." For a while, peace took root. Lawns loosened, not sloppy, just human. Someone painted their shutters blue, unapproved and beautiful. Potlucks multiplied. People told stories with less fear of being measured. But power, once misplaced, lingers like perfume on a scarf. Linda stopped showing up to meetings, yet her flashlight still bobbed on late walks. Grandpa noticed without saying a word. He oiled the latch, checked the batteries before they needed checking, and reminded me, gently, that boundaries require maintenance, not malice. On a Sunday thick with barbecue smoke and laughter, Linda appeared at the far end of the street wearing a red jacket like a declaration. No binder, no twins, just anger polished to a shine. "This ends today," she announced to the block. Grandpa set his lemonade down. He said softly, "Don't do this." She ignored the sign, ignored the murmurs, and reached for the wire Ben handed. A tame snap greeted her, the smallest kiss of blue, enough to startle, not to scar. She jumped, stumbled into the grass, and sputtered accusations that sounded hollow in daylight. For one suspended second, nobody moved. Then laughter rippled, not cool, just tired of the circus. The drone kid caught it all, of course. Grandpa walked over, crouched, voice low. "You wanted proof," he said, "and got the wrong kind. It's not the wire that hurts most. It's pride." She blinked back heat and rose, dignity wobbling on borrowed legs. No dramatic exit, just footsteps that didn't echo. That evening, Grandpa did the most disarming thing of all. He strung warm fairy lights along the fence. The posts glowed like quiet lanterns. He fired up the grill and waved folks over. They came carrying casseroles, lawn chairs, and relief. The same boundary that had divided now framed the gathering. We sat on the porch swing while the dogs snored at our feet and laughter braided across the yard. I asked, "Worth all the trouble?" He watched the light shimmer. "Every fight worth having isn't about victory," he said. "It's about showing people they don't have to bow to nonsense." He leaned closer, a smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Besides, that wire never carried more than a carpet shock. The real current was in their heads. It hit me then. He hadn't built a weapon. He'd built a story scaffold. A lesson you could see and hear and feel just enough to remember. He winked. "The best electricity," he said, "runs through stories, not wires."